Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a discussion over Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs. This is the solo-only version of Gloomhaven, and as you can see, it is in a extremely tiny box. Now, whenever I first heard about this, I was like, okay, like that's gonna be a cute little gimmick. I mean, it was like $15, I think, to like back it with all the other whatever waves they're doing. I was like, sure, okay, I'll give it a shot. And whenever I got it in, I'm like, this could be pretty fun, because my entire series of Gloomhaven, which you can watch on the channel, that took me forever to finally do, I played solo. But in regular Gloomhaven, when you play solo, you have to two-hand two characters. And these are fully fledged characters that you basically have to level up and understand how they play and work together. But you also increase the difficulty of the game, because part of Gloomhaven is the fog of war stuff, where you can't fully describe what you're going to do, or you can't specifically describe what you're going to do. And when you're playing solo, you do have that perfect knowledge, so you can combo a lot better. Anyway, all that is to say that this is solo only, where you don't do that. Basically, you pick one of the main characters, and you go through kind of a very cutesy, we're shrunk kind of story. You walk into, and it seems like it's actually after the events of Gloomhaven, is what I was gathering from the initial story. You're like a new hero, and you're like, hey, I'm going to be somebody, and then you walk into one of the larger characters in the main Gloomhaven story, and you get shrunk. So everything is kind of that version, Mice and Mystic style. You know, hey, we're gonna use a button as a shield and stuff like that. So they do a very interesting thing with this game. One, they utilize, so they have the main characters like that. The scoundrel. Well, it's not called the scoundrel in this game. It is, what do they call them? They are, the Bruiser, the Spellweaver, Tinkerer, Mind Thief, Silent Knife, and the Cragheart. And each of these characters has a certain number of cards, similar to Gloomhaven, except they have 4 cards that they use. But whenever you are, at least, the Cragheart. Like, the Cragheart specifically has 4 level 1 cards. But what's interesting is that whenever you're actually playing, you play your 2 cards like normal. So if you're familiar with Gloomhaven, you're gonna definitely know what's going on. And if you're not familiar with Gloomhaven or any of the other Frosthaven or Jaws of the Lion, this game will still teach you that. So if you go to play those other ones, you're going to be familiar. Things will be a little bit different, but you're going to be familiar with the overall concept. One of the major differences that I noticed was that characters have these dual-sided cards with an A and a B side. And when you're playing your cards, you still pick 2, like normal. Top and a bottom action, all that is still here. But instead of discarding them after use, if they're on their A side, they get flipped to their B side. But if they're on their B side, then they get discarded. So that's kind of to reminisce how some characters have like a hand of 8 cards or a hand of 12 or whatever it might be. That's kind of how you have the longevity of this game, because you still take short rest to get them back and long rest to get them back. All that is still here. But there is this A and this B side that, to me, was the biggest difference of the game. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I'm not a huge fan, because if you have cards in your hand that are on your A side, you have no option but to play their A side, unless whenever you retrieve them. So if I play Explosive Punch and Dirt Tornado, when they come back, then they're on their B side, and I can use their B effects. But you don't really get all that many cool combos right out the gate, because if you have 4 A cards, you can't willingly flip it to its B side. So some cards, like Dirt Tornado, for example, is like, you know what, this is never really that useful, but its Avalanche side is way more useful. And I wish I could, move my 3 and then do an Avalanche attack right out the gate. but I can't. I have to basically play Dirt Tornado for its top or bottom effect and then force it to go to a B. It would have been pretty interesting, I think, if you wanted to basically play a card as a B out the gate, but that's shortening your stamina. Like, hey, I want to play Explosive Punch and Avalanche, knowing full well that Explosive Punch is going to come back to my hand as a B, but Avalanche is getting discarded. If you had that type of decision making, I think that would have livened up the game a little bit more, at least for me specifically, because at the end of the day, I actually got really bored with this game. It felt really repetitive. I thought the story, for what it is, I mean, it's a $15 to $30 game. Like, I think it was 15 for me to like back it, but then it's 30 retail or something. Yeah, so it's like, take this for, what you will. The story I thought was just kind of very much whatever, and almost every single objective falls into that Gloomhaven problem where it's like, oh, defeat all monsters, defeat all monsters, hey, defeat all monsters. Oh, by the way, you're in scenario 5, defeat all monsters, defeat all monsters. Hey, finally, something different. By scenario 8, you're doing something different. Oh, wait, we're back to it. Defeat all monsters, defeat all monsters, defeat all monsters, defeat all monsters, defeat all monsters. Hey, scenario 15, something different. Defeat all monsters, defeat all monsters. Oh, and do something else. Defeat all monsters. It's like there are 3 scenarios that are not defeat all monsters. So it just got insanely repetitive, and I was very much bored because it's so watered down. Like, I felt like I didn't really care, because like whenever you're playing original Gloomhaven, like the Cragheart has his hand of 10 cards, so and they're all available to me. So like regular Gloomhaven and like Buttons and Bugs, it's here. You look at the scenario and you figure out the puzzle, kind of. You're like, okay, so I could do this and I could set up for this attack because I have that available. And you can still do that here. I'm not saying that like if I want to do my bottom Explosive Punch with an Avalanche, I can do that eventually. I have to play something else with Dirt Tornado so they come back as their B-side, and then I can do that combo. But again, I have to do something to then be allowed to do the thing I actually want to do. And everything is very much minimized. It's contained in this little box, so the enemies are cubes on the map, except for you. You have a little mini, little crack baggie of minis. And you're just kind of defeating all monsters. So, halfway through, I mean, actually before halfway through, it's like, okay, let's just do this. And every time you defeat a scenario, like the cards have items on them, so you basically have a pool of items that you can pull from to set up, but it's still limited on what you can hold, like regular Gloomhaven. I didn't really care about what those were. I wasn't like picking scenarios to go after a specific item. You go through, you just go from scenario 1, 2, 3, 4. You just go in sequential order. You don't really pick. And yeah, like I was like, this for some reason is just not doing it for me. Did it feel like Gloomhaven? It did. Like it does feel like Gloomhaven, just in a very, very watered down version. Now, when it comes to the enemies, and actually yourself, there's no modifier deck. Instead, you have a modifier track, kind of, and it's a very similar, like it's the same track. Dang it, there we go. So you have like your modifier track, and then you have the enemy modifier track, and this can be changed based off of difficulty. Yours does change as you level up, so that's kind of cool. But whenever you're fighting against an enemy, like a bandit guard, for example, you roll this die. And this is something I actually do not like in this game. It has a 0 or a plus, minus, and a circle. And on these cards, like for the bandit guard, you roll a die, and he's like slotted into this, and it's like, oh, okay, I got a plus. That means it's on the far end. He's going at initiative 70. He's going to move to an attack 2. that's how the enemies work. So it could be very much gamed, kind of like it's so obvious because you could see what the bandit guard has. It's like, okay, well, no matter what, I'm gonna do this 28 card because I know for a fact that no matter what, I'm gonna go before the bandit guard. Whereas in the original, you could look through the deck. I guess I've never done this, but to figure out what their minimum and maximum initiative order is, to where it's like, oh, okay, the highest initiative on this card is for this creature is a 13, and its slowest is a 72. So if I play an 80, two 80s, I'm guaranteed to go after them. Or I could hedge my bets and play a 25 and hope that the 13 doesn't show up. Here, you're like, oh, Bandit Guard is his fastest is 30. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to play these cards. That's a 28. I know I'm going before them. But what I also don't really like, because it's a sense of randomness that I'm not a huge fan of, is you have your own track with a cube in it. Let's get this cube out here. So you have a cube that basically starts at the top, and every time you attack, it goes down. So, like right now, a minus, because every time you attack, you roll a die. Oh, I got a minus, it's a -1 modifier. Oh, I got a plus, it's a +1 modifier. So basically, it's good, neutral, good, neutral, bad, is really what it is. Third, like on my third level down, I eventually can have a miss if I roll a minus. On the fifth one down, I can get my ×2. It's just it's not that it is any worse than a deck or attack dice, because I know it's like, oh man, the attack modifier deck is better. It's like, no, it's still the same as if you were rolling dice to hit, except you can eventually change it and modify it. My problem with these are that they're so static. Like, it's the same modifier thing. There's no variability whenever you're playing the game. It's like you have no chance of, like, when your ×2 is coming up. There's no chance it'll ever be earlier than your fifth attack. And they have pretty much the same thing. Like, their standard is basically what you start at, so they can crit on their fifth attack as well. It's just, I don't know, I just really don't like the die aspect. Like, there's just no kind of hedging bets, pushing your luck, hoping you don't get a miss when you can clearly see, oh, okay, third attack, I know I can get a miss here, and I got a 0, so I didn't miss. I got a 0 modifier. That's that. It's a weird aspect. I mean, I get it. Like, this is the simplistic way of putting it in this box instead of, again, giving every single character their attack modifier deck that you just wouldn't be able to fit in this tiny box. I do think it's funny though that the box is like a minimized version of it's like the Gloomhaven box, like the side, like the way that the Gloomhaven box is shaped. That's kind of how this is. So yeah, the randomness of the die is whatever. I'm not a huge fan of it. And then the static modifier is, again, I'm not a huge fan of it. Overall, like, I eventually just got super, super bored with it. And I never went into this expecting it to be a replacement for it. I wasn't going to be like, oh, now I never need to play original Gloomhaven again because I have this. It's shrunken down. It's like, and every character has, like, a unique scenario that they can go on. But other than that, I have no desire to ever replay this with other characters. Whereas original Gloomhaven, I have played that multiple times. I have played Jaws of the Lion multiple times with different characters. Even though it's, the same scenario, the puzzle is different depending on who I'm partnered with. Depending on who I'm playing and how I'm going to level them up, because there's so much depth. This game doesn't have that. The other thing that this game completely failed on, in my opinion, is its rulebook. This little rulebook. And this one I don't give them a pass on. Like, I get the not having a modifier deck for characters and that. I can even accept the static thing because, again, the rolling the die just makes it a little bit cleaner and more succinct the rule book is a learn to play where it barely teaches you how to start. Like, it tells you, hey, play the bruiser and go through these steps. And, okay, you're at the end. Well, yeah, the rest of the rules are online. That was just so bizarre to me that I don't think I've ever seen that, and I really, really didn't like it. Like, because there's things after your very first scenario, you're immediately asking questions. Like, wait, what do I do with this level? Like, this level up, or how? Like, because it literally tells you what you don't, this doesn't cover. Items, recovering, scenario effects, terrain, upgraded abilities, which I'm assuming also means leveling up. It's like, hey, just scan this QR code and get the rest of the rules. And then the rules are very extensive online. Like, it looks like a Word document of just hyperlinks. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. This was at least a decent attempt to teach me how to get started. Like, why is your online rulebook now formatted better? It's just like, it looked like it was still in prototype. Like, it went to a Google Doc of Isaac's, prototype of what he was typing up for the rules. It's a mess on there. I knew what I was looking for because I played Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, but for people who are jumping in to get this one, I feel like it'd be a little bit overwhelming. So again, like, because the way that the box is like laid out, let me just double check before I make this statement. So put those in there. Then Dirt Tornado, Bandit Guard can go right there. The health dials and the status tokens can go right there. Then these stupid little die can go in here. Fold those up. Fold the little minis up. Yep, okay. So there is at least room for the rest of the rules. Like, you could have easily had the rest of the rules in a pocket-sized book like this. So have the learn to play and then have the rule book, and then it would have fit. It would have been full, but I mean, there's nothing extra. It's not like they're making expansions for this. So you could have had room to put the rest of the rules. I think I really didn't like that. The other thing that I usually never bring up unless it's an issue, and here I kind of did find it as an issue. I thought the components were kind of cheap. Again, this is $30, like retail. Like, you're not really going to get much. I mean, they did some decent stuff with like the dual layered boards. That's nice. But the card quality is really bad. Like almost first time setting it up, I just could see the cards start to like curl up, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of annoying. I mean, it's just a bunch of cards, so that was the biggest component issue. But they felt very thin and just kind of cheap. So, I mean, not their best attempt at making a high quality game, but I guess that some people might just be like, I don't really care because I spent $15 on it, or what. I mean, I can do this because it's the size of a little box. It's a little box. Overall, does it feel like Gloomhaven? Yeah. Like, you're gonna be able to jump in and be like, oh hey, it's a little bitty Gloomhaven. I'm gonna carry this with me everywhere I go, and just play a little story of Gloomhaven, and you might have a good time. It's definitely not a replacement for anything. It's not like it's taken Gloomhaven and shrinking it into a more condensed version, so it's like, wow, I'm getting the same experience, because you're not. It's cute. I mean, that's really what I have going for it, but like the unique changes of like the A and B side cards was not my favorite. The randomness of the die wasn't my favorite, but it's cute. Is kind of where I land on this game. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what am I giving Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs? I'm going to give this a whopping 6 out of 10. Slightly above average. It does work. Like, again, if this was like, wow, this is nothing like Gloomhaven. They just put that IP on it. That sucks. It doesn't do that. That would actually get it probably like a 4 for me. But the fact that I was like, hey, I'm immediately familiar with what's going on here. that's a good sign. So I think some people could really like this just on a lighter end of just trying to kill time. It's very quick to set up, although a little bit more of a table hog than what you would expect coming out of this box. Like, it's not so compacted that it's like right in front of you with everything. You do still have, a pile of tokens, and then if you have like 4 enemies out, you have their 4 dials, health dials, as well as their boards, and then their attack boards, and then your stuff to have room for items. It still takes a decent table, decent sized area, but clearly not like a gaming table. But yeah, like, I just was insanely bored with it and have no desire to play it again. So that is my thoughts on Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.